back to Exploit Security. I am your host, Scott Anderson, and today we're going to be doing a dive into some more Capture the Flag challenges. Now, what I really like about Capture the Flag is it helps build upon those required skills and that critical thinking pattern needed to be successful as a penetration tester and just as a cybersecurity professional in general. So if you do like the content, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. Hey, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to Exploit Security. As always, I am your host, Scott, and today we are going to be jumping back into OverTheWire Leviathan. So we're going to be picking up where we left off. Last week we went ahead and we worked our way through Leviathan 0, which was really about catting a file and then grepping it for a particular keyword, and then we were able to identify the flag. So if you haven't seen Leviathan 0 video, definitely check that out on my channel. I also have content for Nadas and Bandit as well. Both are hosted on OverTheWire. Bandit is going to be very similar to Leviathan, and Nadas is going to be kind of based around web application and vulnerabilities associated with that. So before we go ahead and jump into Leviathan 1, quick disclosure, this is a solution-based video, which means that by the end of this video, you are going to see the solution for this particular challenge. So if you have not tried to find the solution on your own already, I strongly encourage that you give it a shot. If you are stuck, you're not able to find that solution, you are in the perfect spot. I do think you get a lot more value finding the answer on your own, but I think there's a lot of value gained as well from watching these videos if you've kind of hit that point of no return. The important thing is you just want to absorb the process, the workflow, and the tools that I may be using. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into it and see what we can figure out. So right off the bat, of course, you can run the standard who am I, the if config, right? A lot of those different utility or those commands, right? In the case of Leviathan, if it's anything similar to how Bandit is, the CTF challenges or the levels tend to be very siloed out. It's more geared towards the beginner working into that intermediate level. So they like to keep it siloed just to make it a little bit easier so you're not kind of going down those rabbit holes, as I like to call them. It's notorious, right? As you're learning machine, you start to see a lot of files and different paths you don't understand. We have a tendency to follow them, and you 100% should, right? If you don't know what a file is, if you haven't seen a path, you should definitely always chase those down when it comes to enumeration. One, over time, you will start to understand this is normal. This exists on every Linux machine. This is unusual. And that's really how you start to learn the operating system that you are working on. But in the case of Leviathan 1, we're not really going to get into that. We're going to kind of stick with that silo. And it's probably all here located within the home directory where we will be able to do our work. So I'm just going to do lsla. I'm basically just telling it to list everything in the current directory in long form and also display all hidden files. Hidden files, as you can see, are the ones with the dot in front of the file. That's one way you can have of hiding a file in Linux, so that A is going to just expose all of that. And right off the bat, we can see a file called check. It looks like it's owned by Leviathan 2. It looks like it's Leviathan 1, which is us, as you can see in the who am I. We are Leviathan 1. It looks like we do have the ability to execute it, but what's really interesting is this S, right? That S is a set UID. And what essentially this is telling me is that as Leviathan 1, we can run this program and it will run as Leviathan 2. So there are a lot of issues and risk associated with this, right? You can use it for privilege escalation or pivoting, and you can just do a lot of potential damage to a system. So if you have not done a little bit of Google searching on set UID vulnerabilities, set UID risk, set UID privilege escalation, strongly encourage that you do that as well. You will start to see a lot more of this or that set UID when you start to get into VulnHub or into Hack the Box. So let's just go ahead and just cat the file just so I can show you an example of what that looks like. Right off the bat, we get a lot of odd characters. We do see some strings that we can read in here. What essentially this means is this is not human readable. So this does look like it is a C-based binary, which would make sense because we do have to compile C-based. So there's not a whole lot we can work here. The other comparison that I want to show you is strings. And what strings does is it is only going to show you, it's only going to return the human readable string found within that file or within that program or binary. So right off the bat, you can see these as well. So this is particularly helpful. And when I say this, I mean strings is particularly helpful when you're doing things like malware analysis, especially static analysis, right? And you're trying to understand what a compiled program may be doing. You can start to search a lot of these different things on Google, and it's going to start kind of painting a picture of what this file may be doing behind the scenes. In this case, I don't really see anything that's going to be helpful initially. We'll kind of store this in our noggin for later. I can see just a keyword for love. I can see a string comparison. So we're just going to keep this in mind for now, and we're just going to kind of drive on. But just keep in mind that this comes in handy when you're doing other things too, not just penetration testing. There is a great course on malware analysis by Malware Unicorn. I will try to remember to drop that in the description when I do post this video. Really great course, very well put together. She is an expert and a professional. She also has an account on Twitter, if I remember correctly. I don't really use Twitter or X, but I used to go there and follow some of her content back in the day. Highly encourage you to just check that out as well. I'll try to make sure I drop that in the description of this video when it's dropped onto YouTube. So we're just going to clear this out. I like to work with a clean plate. And let's just go ahead and just run it and see what happens. Prompts us for a password. I'm going to try that love keyword I found. Wrong password, goodbye. We can do some password guessing if we want to. Most CTF challenges aren't going to force you to do a lot of password guessing, only because it's such an unknown variable, right? The password could literally be password 123, but the odds of everyone trying password 123 on password guessing may be very, very low. Every now and then they'll drop a password in there that's like in a ROCU text file, and it's like the 20th down so that you can kind of get used to doing some of that brute forcing. But in this scenario, I highly doubt that that's going to come into play. So let's just kind of drive past that. We'll store that in our noggin as well. And if we have to, we'll come back to that. The other thing that we're going to do is a Linux utility, which is ltrace. There's also a sister version of this called strace. So ltrace is going to trace the shared libraries that are called when you're running that process or that program. strace, if I remember correctly, it's going to be around the input and output and memory allocation, and I think network as well, but don't count me on that. So I don't think in this scenario we're going to have to start off using strace, but we probably do want to start off using ltrace. So let me show you how that works. So you're just going to run ltrace, and then you're going to call that file to run. And essentially, as that file is being ran, it is going to trace those libraries that are being called. So right away, you can see this prompt for the password. I'm just going to do monkey. My handle is cybermonkey. So I like to do monkey when I'm running things because I can see it start to pop up. And then as we start to kind of go down, we can see this strcmp. So this means string comparison. And you can see in this case, it only took the first 3 characters and it did a comparison to sex. And what this essentially is telling me is that they are comparing the password we provided to the password they have within this file to see if it matches. And in the case, it is not matching. So we get the wrong password, goodbye. So most likely the password is going to be sex. Super classy. Gotta love it. Let's just go ahead and run that program again, and then try it with sex. Right off the bat, we notice that something else is different. So let's just go ahead and run who am I. We can see that we are now running as Leviathan 2. So when it comes to Bandit, the password is usually stored inside of Etsy Bandit, I believe _pass. So we're going to go off the assumption and say that it's probably going to be the same for Leviathan. So let's just try cat Etsy Leviathan. Hopefully I can spell Leviathan correctly. Pass, and then Leviathan 2. And there we have it. We have what is the password for Leviathan 2. So we'll go ahead and copy that out. I like to always start off with a clean slate, so I'll just start exiting out. I like to exit all the way out, clear it out again, go up. And I'm just going to remove that 2 on the username, or excuse me, remove that 1 on the username. And I'm going to drop in a 2 instead. We'll hit enter. And we're going to go ahead and paste in that password. Remember, when you are connecting via socket shell or secure shell, excuse me, when you're connecting over a secure shell or SSH, you're not going to see that password. Don't be alarmed. That is just for privacy and security. It is definitely going in there if you paste it. We can hit enter. And there you have it. We are now on Leviathan 2. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this video, but definitely check out the next video where we start working our way through Leviathan 2. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. If you have any recommendations, maybe if you have some insight, right? I always like to take a student first approach, which means I'm a student first and foremost. I mostly like doing this content because I like to teach people just starting out. I get a lot of pleasure from being able to work with younger people and teach them kind of the challenges that I faced when I was starting out. So if you have any suggestions, any recommendations, any requests, jot those in the comment section below. Other than that, please hit this with a like and a share. And if you have not already, please subscribe. Other than that, I will catch you guys in the next video. Later, everyone.